So the second part of the review, we're going to take a look at the graphing. So this first one, identify the amplitude. So here's our amplitude. Hopefully this works. Let's see. So there's our A, which is 4. Our period, 2 pi over B. So here's our B. So 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Phase shift, C over B. So here's our C spot. So we have 1/6 divided by 2. So that turns out to be 1/6 times 1/2. So that would be 1/12, and it's minus. So to the right, vertical shift would be up 2. So the next one, we're asked to graph this. Well, our amplitude is 3, and there's no vertical shift. So our midline is 0, 3, -3. Our period, 2 pi divided by, well, this is the same as 3, the cosine of 1/3 theta. So 2 pi, divided by 1/3. So that equals 2 pi times 3 over 1, which is 6 pi. So if this is 6 pi, let's see, what's 6 pi times 1/4? 6 pi over 4, which reduces down to 3 pi over 2. So this first tick mark, 3 pi over 2, 6 pi over 2, 3 pi, and 9 pi over 2. It's cosine, so cosine starts high, the middle, low, middle, high, low, middle, high. All right, so this next one, sine, our amplitude is 2/3. So let's see here, -2/3, +2/3. Midline is 0. And again, this is like saying 1/2 theta. So we got 2 pi divided by 1/2. So 2 pi times 2 over 1, which is 4 pi. So our period is 4 pi. So that means we're counting 1 pi, 2 pi, 3 pi, 4 pi. Sine starts in the center and it's a negative, so it goes down, middle, high, middle, high, middle, down, middle. So our next one here, it looks like we have a phase shift. So our midline's -3. Our amplitude is 2. So we have -1, -5. And let's see here. Our period, 2 pi divided by 1. So that's 2 pi. Well, that would be 2 pi over 4. So we got pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2. Phase shift would go to the left, pi over 2. So sine usually starts here, but it'll move over. So then it would go high, middle, low, middle, high, low, middle, high. And we have our graph. 18. Let's see. Midline is 2, amplitude is 2.5. So we have 2.5, 1.5. Period equals 2 pi over 2, which is pi. So then we have 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4. Our phase shift is going to go to the right since it's a minus, C over B. So that's pi over 2. So cosine usually starts here. Pi over 2 is 2 tick marks. So it would go here. Oops, and this one should be going through there. Middle, low. And we have our graph. So now we have to write a couple equations here. The amplitude is 15. So y equals 15 the sine. Our period, 2 pi over b. So that's 4 pi equals 2 pi over b times b. So 4 pi b equals 2 pi. Divide by 4 pi. So b equals 2/4, or 1/2. So 1/2 x, right, so that's minus. And so our phase shift, c over b equals pi over 2. C over half equals pi over 2 times half. So c equals, so that'd be pi over 4. And then we have down 10. So the next one we have a cosine. So y equals 2/3 cosine, period. So 2 pi over b equals pi over 3. So times b and 3. So this would be 6 pi equals 3b. So b equals 6. Phase shift to the left, so that's plus. Let's see, pi over 3, this is a mess, I apologize. C over 6. So times 3 and 6, so we have 6 pi equals 3c, divide by 3. C equals 2 pi. I apologize that this is such a mess. So 2 pi plus 5. And then this last page, this should be pretty much review for you guys by now. There you're trying to find these. So pi over 6 is 30. So 7 times 30, 210. So down here, 30, negative half, negative root 3 over 2. Sine is y, so we have negative half. Cosine of 5 pi over 4, so 5 times 45, so 225. 45, negative root 2 over 2, negative root 2 over 2. Cosine is x, so we have negative root 2 over 2. Tangent, 2 times 60, so we have 120. So we got 60, root 3 over 2, negative half. So opposite over adjacent. So we have negative root 3. Cosine of 3 pi over 2. So 3 times 90 is 270. So here's 270, 0, negative 1. Cosine is your x, so we have 0. Tangent of 3 pi over 4, 3 times 45. So that would be in this quadrant. Root 2 over 2, negative root 2 over 2. So opposite over adjacent. Well, it's the same thing. So it's negative 1. And the last one, sine of 11 pi over 6. We have 330. So 30 degrees would be right here. So negative half root 3 over 2. Sine is y. So it would be negative half.